Top 10 tornado of all time. Some of the worst natural disasters to have rocked the planet have been tornadoes, and sadly enough, a significant number of them have occurred in the US and North America as a whole. At a time when the world is grappling with greenhouse emissions and policymakers are seeking out ways to keep the environment safe, entire populations are exposed to the threat of tornadoes. There have been small tornadoes that destroy the small area and massive tornadoes that have leveled entire cities, but which tornadoes have been the deadliest? In this video, we bring you the top 10 tornadoes of all time. Some names may be familiar to you, but others you probably have never heard of. Let's dive right in. Number 10. Wichita Falls, 1979. On April 10, 1979, a strong tornado hit Wichita Falls, Texas, but it was only one of the 13 tornadoes to hit northern Texas and Oklahoma on a day that has been recorded in history books at Deadly Tuesday. This tornado destroyed properties along a 1-mile radius and carved open the city of Wichita, inhabited by more than 100,000 people. At the end of the carnage, about 3,100 homes were turned into rubble. Sadly enough, 42 lives were lost despite warnings by disaster management agencies asking people to stay indoors rather than flee with their vehicles. Number 9. Natchez Tornado, Mississippi, 1840. On the 7th of May 1840, the disastrous Natchez tornado struck Mississippi State. It remains the second deadliest tornado in U.S. history as it affected up to 26 states. However, its most devastating effect occurred in Mississippi, as it claimed a total of 317 lives. Natchez was a 100-point scale tornado and happened at a time in history when electricity had not been invented, so there were no sirens, television, radio, or internet to warn people of the coming Armageddon. Before it struck, the city was a bubbling melting pot of social culture, with a port and thriving economy. The tornado first struck just 20 miles of the city, then swept across the river to hit Natchez Landing. From there, it came to the shore, tearing the city into two halves. Of the 317 deaths, historical accounts suggest that about 269 of them died in flat boats that were capsized at sea. The exact death toll remains a mystery because the slave era was still in force at the time, so slaves were not counted among the official death. It remains one of the deadliest days in U.S. history. Number 8. Hackleburg Tornado, Alabama, 2011. The Hackleburg tornado is a recent occurrence that happened on the 27th of April 2011 in the town of Hackleburg, Alabama. At the time, Hackleburg had a small population of 1,430, but when the tornado struck, it caused an estimated property damage of $1.25 billion. For some unexplained reason, this super outbreak took aim at the small town at an estimated maximum wind strength of 210 miles per hour and covered a total length path of 132 miles. The 27.5 magnitude tornado tossed about 200 cars off its path and leveled a sturdy 4-sided brick building. The worst-hit area was Marion County, where 145 people were injured and 72 killed. It is regarded as the second worst tornado in Alabama history, behind another tornado that struck the state 80 miles south. Number 7. Worcester Tornado, Massachusetts, 1953. Still on the top 19 tornadoes of all time, we bring you the Worcester Tornado of Massachusetts. This tornado wasn't confined to only the Midwest and the southern coast, but reached New England to become the unenviable record of being the worst one to hit New England. It cut across 46 miles and lasted for 84 minutes, but in that time, it destroyed properties worth $1.36 billion. It occurred just a day after 115 people were killed in Flint, Michigan by another F5 tornado. The Worcester tornado turned the northern part of Worcester into rubble and destroyed many other parts of Massachusetts. 94 people were killed and 1,288 injured. The Quinsigamond Community College, formerly Assumption College, lost 3 stories, while 2 3-story tenements were destroyed. In total, the Worcester tornado claimed 4,000 buildings that were partially or completely destroyed. Number 6. Gainesville Tornado, Georgia, 1936. In 6th place, but in no particular order, is the Gainesville tornado of April 6, 1936. It lasted for 2 days and claimed more than 100 lives on each day, bringing the total number of deaths to 203 precious lives, including 1,600 injured. It also holds the horrific record of causing the highest number of deaths by a tornado in a single building in U.S. history. Furthermore, the total property damage was estimated as $1.325 billion. One of the tornadoes came from the west and the other from the southeast, that merged in Gainesville on that awful April morning to create a 4-block wide creative path through the city. The 38.3 magnitude tornado caused buildings in the central business district to collapse, including the county courthouse. The Cooper Count Pants factory collapsed and caused a fire that killed dozens of people, out of which 40 of them were never found, so were declared missing. The Gainesville tornado occurred at a time when many states were affected by tornadoes. In fact, it occurred a day after the Tupelo tornado that killed 216 persons in Mississippi. Number 5. St. Louis Tornado, Missouri, 1927. Nicknamed the Gateway to the West, St. Louis has a checkered tornado history. On September 29, 1927, a devastating tornado struck, causing 72 fatalities and injuring 550 persons. When adjusted for inflation, the property damage was estimated at $2.077 billion and tore apart more than 200 city blocks. This 42.8 magnitude tornado carved open a 12-mile-long line through St. Louis in 4 terrible minutes. The Weather Service announced that some office blocks were completely blown away, including multi-story buildings that were swept away from their foundations. Number 4. Tuscaloosa Tornado, Alabama, 2011. The Tuscaloosa tornado is arguably the deadliest tornado in U.S. history in a single day. But why? Because on the 27th of April 2011, a total of 200 tornadoes swept across the southeast, with most of them passing through Tuscaloosa. This deadly tornado claimed 65 lives and 1,500 people were injured on a day of death. In total, it spanned 80.68 miles and caused an estimated damage of $2.2 billion of property. According to reports, it was a 43.9 magnitude tornado classed as a Category EF4. Notable buildings like the Alberta Elementary School and the Tuscaloosa County Emergency Operations Center were destroyed. Also, localities affected included Pleasant Grove and Concord in West Birmingham, Alabama. Number 3. Joplin Tornado, Missouri, 2011. 2011 was indeed a year of tornado disasters in the U.S., and one of the worst of the lot happened in Joplin on May 22, 2011. This mammoth tornado was a 61.4 magnitude storm that claimed 161 lives and an estimated property damage of $2.8 billion. About 7,500 residential buildings were damaged and 17,000 people were displaced. The Weather Channel classed it as a EF5 tornado at a wind speed of 200 miles per hour. The Joplin tornado tore a 6 miles gash through the city of 50,000 inhabitants. At the end of the carnage, the sheer scope of damage beggared belief. Entire neighborhoods were turned upside down, including the famous St. John's Mercy Hospital and the city's Joplin High School. In economic terms, the city's businesses felt the impact of the hit, and many of them never recovered. More than 500 businesses were impacted, with close to 5,000 employees rendered unemployed. Some car owners never found their cars. That's how bad it was. Number 2. St. Louis Tornado, Missouri, 1896. This is the second at Louis tornado on our list, but it occurred towards the end of the 19th century, when the Industrial Revolution was already in full swing. This one was so bad, it almost flattened the Union Depot Rail Company in the city. On May 27, 1896, the tornado struck the heart of St. Louis, causing 255 fatalities and about 1,000 injured. The 64.0 magnitude tornado moved from the Tower Grove Park to downtown St. Louis. As if the destruction wasn't enough, it crossed the legendary Mississippi River before carving out eastern St. Louis. Before the Joplin tornado of 2011, it was the costliest tornado in the history of the U.S. Close to 9,000 buildings were destroyed or damaged, with the famous East Bridge losing about 300 feet, but it survived. According to records, it remains the third deadliest U.S. tornado of all time. Number 1. Cyclone Ian, 2022. This list will be incomplete if we failed to mention Cyclone Ian that occurred on the 4th of October, 2022. It is one of the strongest storms to have ever hit the state of Florida and is classed as a Category F4 hurricane. It claimed 106 lives and displaced more than 40,000 people, with several buildings completely destroyed. Moving at an extraordinary speed of 249 km per hour, half the city couldn't react quickly enough when it came calling and brought massive floods in its wake. But Florida wasn't the only affected state, though. The coastal towns of South Carolina were also affected with torrential floods wrecking entire neighborhoods, including the seaside city of Myrtle. The power grid in South Carolina was also affected, with close to 200,009 without power. The city of Charleston was also affected as the storm moved north at speeds of 50 miles per hour. There have been hundreds of storms and tornadoes, some greater than others, but the ones reviewed in this video are the top 10 worst tornadoes of all time.